Welcome to UK Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yukai Kechidori.
Welcome back to another very special episode, ladies and gentlemen. And Bill, it's so good that you tune in to find out what works today, not what used to work years ago, but what works today. And in fact, my guest today, Bryna Haynes, is an outstanding lady who is out in the field leading a lot of business owners on how to do business well and how to do it in style. In fact, Bryna is really helping people upskill their leadership with what I consider an outstanding strategies. Bryna, thank you so much for joining us here for the first time on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
I am excited. I know you are a big thinker and you also talk about thought leadership. Give us one nugget that you have discovered about thought leadership.
Absolutely. Well, one of the most important things to know about thought leadership is that thought leadership is an internal journey. And most people, when they think about expertise, it's in the realm of an external journey. But thought leadership is not a natural extension of expertise. It's actually the culmination of a hero's journey, which is a really interesting way to frame it and can bring up a lot of just absolutely incredible realizations for people.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that because oftentimes we see what is happening outside, the sets of expertise, the skill sets, and ignore what is going on internally, and would love to cover that today. And thank you so much for joining us here today. And with me is my dear friend Thomas, all the way from the US, my co-host. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, you. Pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so
Bryna.
much. Yes, indeed. Thanks for joining us here again. Bryna, I know you have an interesting journey, how you ended up doing what you're doing today. I'd love for you, in a snapshot, to share with everybody, especially with Bill. I know Bill is taking notes as always, your journey, because if I remember correctly, in your mid-20s, you started in the world of editing, in the world of publishing, and you did not have a college degree. And now you have probably 12 books, that have been published, and you're doing great. Talk to us about that journey for a moment.
Absolutely. So I had some different circumstances graduating high school. I made the decision ultimately not to go to college, even though I had been accepted at some really great schools. And I went on more of a creative journey and ventured into the salon world. When I was 27, I decided that it really was time to pursue my lifelong dream of becoming a writer. I have been obsessed with books my entire life. They have always been my friends and companions, and I just decided that it was really time to follow that dream, and that if I waited for the degree, if I waited for permission, I was never going to do it. So I thought at first that I would be finishing the epic fantasy novel that I had started and writing articles for magazines and online publications, and I was not at all on track with that. I got kind of dropped headfirst into the world of editing, and specifically editing for transformational nonfiction, self-help, and personal development. And that was in part thanks to a book coach that I connected with early in my career, a woman named Lisa Tenner, who is actually still a friend and client of my company. And we, just developed this referral relationship, and my earliest clients were really doing this work in personal development. And so I started leaning into, what does this mean? And every book that came along in my career really put me on a path to greater learning about myself and my path. And so it felt like a very, like a tandem journey. Every author that I connected with and worked with over the course of about almost 15 years as a freelancer really added so much to my own life experience. And yeah, it was an incredible journey. And then in late 2020, I launched World Changers Media, which is my current company, and became a publisher. So previously, I had worked with other wonderful publishers. I had helped clients self-publish. I had helped clients traditionally publish. And what I've created is really an answer to all of the things that I wanted to lean into in the publishing space that I didn't see were fully available.
Yeah, yeah. Is that amazing? I love how you've gone really to follow your dreams. Is something that we talk about all the time. And since you've launched that, you've literally helped a lot of people write their books. And you've got 3 books coming up very soon as well. So we're grateful for you to step out and really show the world that, when you follow your dreams, things do happen accordingly, and things begin to line up, just like you were saying. And the message there is follow your dreams, start wherever you are. And we're grateful that you did that. And now you're the CEO of the World Changes Media. Talk to us about that very briefly before we dive in to talk about thought leadership.
Absolutely. So World Changers Media is a boutique publishing house. We're focused on serving the next generation of thought leaders. So we're really in a true hybrid space where all of our quality control, all of our internal processes, all of our editing processes are modeled after the best practices from traditional publishing, but our authors own all of their rights and royalties and retain control of their intellectual property, which is also something I think is very important. So
And unique.
we are, yeah, and so
Very unique.
we're really focused on helping people take that journey from expertise to thought leadership. And books are one potential way to do that. And we love working with people who are on a huge mission out to change the world, really wanting to do the best that they can in their lifetime to create the greatest ripple of change.
Yeah, yeah. And it is now a proven that when you have a book out there, you are perceived as an authority, and it opens up a lot of opportunities that you perhaps were not open to you. So we're grateful that there are people like you, Bryna, who are making that happen for a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't do that. And because of that, I'm going to ask Bill and many people in our audience to reach out to you, and maybe seek some assistance if this is something that is of importance to them now. Bryna, talk to me your understanding about thought leadership and why it is important today in our world.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people perceive thought leadership as just the next step in an expert journey.
Right.
But I actually think that it is a continuation of an expert journey, but it is not a linear step. So
Right.
an expert journey to me is really about externals. It's about going out and finding clients. It's about going out and getting experience, because experience and expertise are very closely related. Sometimes that can be going out and getting accreditation, taking courses, getting degrees, etc. Sometimes that experience is more practical, but it's this interaction with the outside world in some way and the receiving of feedback on our idea that makes us an expert. So I actually correlate that to the sort of first part of the hero's journey, right? Where the hero leaves their little hometown and goes out and has these experiences and learns these things and becomes an expert in something. The thought leadership part of the journey is actually about a return within, because thought leadership to me is the ability and decision to bring all of who we are to our expertise. So rather than, than us being, an expert and having this sort of narrow view of who we are that lines up with our expertise and excluding all else, which tends to happen, right? When we get into our field of expertise, we're like, okay, well, this is the part of me that is an expert, and all these other parts of me, they're not relevant here. They're not relevant in this expert space. We see this all the time. And the thought leadership journey is about, yes, I have this expertise, but my expertise is actually fashioned by building a lens that is all of who I am. And through this lens of all of my experience, all of my all of my learning, all of my interests, all of my loves, all of my passions, when I forge a lens of those things that are all of me, and I view my expertise through that lens, then I have the capacity to become a thought leader, because that is an irreplicable perspective. It's a perspective that no one else can possibly have. It's a perspective that no one can possibly copy. It's a perspective that has literally never been seen before. And to me, that is the hugest gift of a thought leadership journey, is that we truly do get to be all of who we are all the time.
Absolutely.
And it's not, I have to show up as this like work version of myself, and then I get to show up as the weekend version of myself, or like, the mom version of me is different than the version of me clients see. And honestly, that's exhausting.
It is.
We don't want to do that. So, but the level to which it impacts your actual work and perspective as an expert is something that I think, we really need to lean into, because trying to fit in a mold as an expert is actually killing our ability to ideate, to make big breakthroughs. So
yeah, what I like about that is when we as leaders, take hold of that, we will have that uniqueness, and people will see that authenticity will come through. All the weakness, all the strength, it all combined together, and it's all good, and it makes you even more effective. People can relate to that because people can see that you really mean to help people, despite all the difficulties or despite other areas of your life. You are just there to serve. It truly is remarkable. How did you come to this conclusion?
Partially through my own journey, especially when I started out in the editing and ghostwriting world in my late 20s. I really wanted to be, someone that people would consider an expert, that they would trust, because I was a brand new freelancer, and I'm like, okay, people won't hire me if they think I only read fantasy novels in my spare time, which is still true, by the way. And so, I didn't talk about it. It wasn't that I ever misrepresented my experience, but I excluded other parts of my life that did not feel relevant to the expertise I was creating. So I didn't talk about, the fact that I'm a musician and that I play, I don't even know, I've lost track of how many instruments, but, that I love to sing, that I only read fantasy in my spare time, that I, that I have all of these other interests and have done all of these other deep dives into subjects that seem unrelated to my expertise.
Yeah.
And so, a few years in, I've been working with clients, and I've been, having these wonderful relationships built, and people would be like, how did I not know that you did X, Y, Z?
Exactly.
And it actually backfired on me a little bit, because it was like, what else do we not know about you?
Yes,
like, how do we only get this, it feels like you're showing up so fully with us. And of course I was, but like people were feeling like they didn't get the whole picture of me. And it was, it was a real exercise in like, wow, okay. So, it's actually impeding my ability to show up in full transparency and authenticity when I'm constantly worried, what are people going to think about this part of my life that doesn't relate to editing, right?
It is very interesting, because when people begin to discover that parts of you, you find that they accept that as well. In fact, you give so much breadth to who you are, and you can talk about business, and you can talk about, maybe that extra curriculum outside, and it bonds you even better, because they now feel like they know you, they trust you, you're closer to them. So I truly appreciate that. Now, a lot of people, Bryna, would not be so comfortable to share all of who they are. And I understand that. I still do that sometimes. How can you help a person like that transition to really become that thought leader who is comfortable with sharing who they are and in an authentic way?
I think it's a matter of asking the right questions.
Right.
So if you look at the parts of your life that don't seem related to your expertise, but that you're really passionate about, and you start asking, what can this teach me about my expertise?
Yeah.
So what I came to realize over the course of my own journey that one of the reasons that I can coach and teach and write around story so well is that I understand it so well from my, lifelong obsession with fantasy novels, and that it wasn't unrelated to personal development. In fact, the idea of world building, as we talk about in the fantasy community, is perfectly applicable to writing a self-help book. And so when I stopped trying to, compartmentalize, I started realizing that all of these other things that I know and have done really can inform my perspective on my expertise. And when I started talking about them in that way and sharing what I had learned from these other parts of my life, it actually helped cement a new viewpoint for me and how I was teaching and how I could communicate and how I could bridge the gap between, this sort of like, distant standing that some experts have, right? You kind of picture experts as being a little aloof, right? But to kind of bring in all of these other aspects and use them again to forge a lens through which to view our expertise. If you look at these other parts of your life that you may not be sharing because I'm not sure that's professional, I'm not sure how people are going to react to that, start asking the question, how does my love of this other thing, or how does my experience in this other realm affect the way that I see my work, that I see my expertise? I find this happens a lot with people who have had careers in corporate and who leave corporate and become entrepreneurs. There's this sense that like, oh, I'm done with corporate. I never want to go back to that. I never want to revisit that. And the truth is there are beautiful skills and entire ways of thinking learned in that environment and from that experience that absolutely can benefit you as an entrepreneur. And when you stop shutting the door and recognize, the most important thing to recognize is that just because you open the door and say, I'm going to let this part of me in, does not mean you need to go back to being that version of you. It just means that you're opening the door for the learning. And so again, just asking the right questions is so helpful and can be so profound.
Yes, yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm sure Bill and everybody in the audience do get that, because what you are today is the total sum of your previous experience, your skill set, what you've gone through. And if you can just be present and allow all the good things come out at you, at that time, a lot of people will benefit from that. In a few minutes, we'll be going over to talk about, the publishing work that you do. And I know Thomas has got a lot of questions lined up for you. But before we do that, for those maybe who are listening right now, and maybe they've heard about the thought leadership and they understand and they want to really begin to incorporate that in their leadership skill, and they are looking for help. How can you personally help them? I know some of them would want to reach out to you.
Absolutely. So I've actually started doing this work outside of books through VIP days. So I actually have programs where I will help people ideate around their thought leadership and come up with a thought leadership platform. But, so I'm absolutely happy to speak to anybody who's curious about that offering. And I think, just to get people started, the most important thing is to recognize exactly what you said, that we are the sum total of our experiences, our beliefs, our loves, our dislikes, all of that, and that all of that can be forged into something that will create an up level, even things that might feel detrimental. And so being willing to sit with all the parts of ourselves and actually say, even though this part of me doesn't feel like it fits, or it's painful, or it was traumatic, or I'm ashamed of it, right? That ultimately there's a lesson here that can be applied to the work that I'm doing now. And when we start down that line of thinking, all the doors open up. So I want to kind of like just push that button right now and get people thinking about that, because it's so amazing to lean into who you already are and what you already know, instead of looking outside yourself for more strategy, more external feedback, more expertise, when what's really needed is just more of you.
Absolutely. I have a belief, and I sometimes share it here, that you have everything that you need right now for your next move. It's not completely out there. It may be, if it is out there, someone will come with it. But if you just have confidence, develop that confidence that life has allowed you to go through all these experiences and learn all these set of skills to prepare you for this moment right before you, and just take a leap of faith and really take the thought leadership approach we are using and do the very best that you have. It's amazing. One step at a time, it opens up the whole world, be it opportunity, relationship, whatever it may be. Just develop that, that confidence that everything is well, everything is working together. I am who I am meant to be right now, with all perhaps shortcomings, with all the wonderful experience that has happened today. Just take that step and just keep on being the very best you can be and help people right where you are. Thomas, I'm so excited about the next section of our time here, because we have the master herself right here with us. You take it on, brother.
Thank you, Yokai. And I just want to say I really resonate with what you were talking about in terms of faith and trusting oneself and the power of doing that. So that's something I work on with my clients frequently. Bryna, I'm really, you hinted at the hero's journey and finding the right questions to help your client, but I'm really curious to learn more about how when you're working with, especially with a first-time author, what are some of the challenges or the points of resistance or where they get stuck? Because I understand that you work with folks for about a year as they're moving through the whole book writing journey, getting it ready for publication, the editing, et cetera. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. So most of the time when we connect with authors, they either have a little bit of writing done or they're really just at the ideation stage. And that is when we love to start with people, because there is a really amazing process that great books need to go through in order to become their best selves. And so there's a lot of iteration, there's a lot of conceptualizing that happens in the first part of that journey that is really, really important to us and to our authors. So honestly, where we start and where we, initiate our authors on their journey is very much what we were just talking about in terms of discovering thought leadership. What is the mission, and who is the author in relationship to that mission? We talk a lot about, what stories they want to tell and how they work with their clients and what the real overarching theme of the work is. And we really distill that down to a very clear roadmap. And what happens in this process is that right from the beginning, we experience our authors having this aha around their own thought leadership. I didn't realize that this was this big, or I didn't quite realize that this story about, something that I did or said when I was 4 or 15 or 25 can actually have this much impact and relevance to what I'm teaching and how I'm teaching it. The other thing that we help people get really clear on is the scope of the problem they're addressing, which is really a necessary ingredient for a great book. It's like, what is the problem that your reader's having, and what is the evidence that the problem exists? And that's a fantastic line of inquiry, whether you're writing a book or not, because we kind of get into it in a lot of really good marketing teachings, but really looking at what is the actual problem that our intended audience is having, what is the evidence that the problem exists, and then how does the author solve it? And that piece alone, when we really get to the core of that, can give people tremendous clarity. So it's like we're prepping them for the mission, right? Like, Bilbo Baggins is packing his bags and running out the door with his handkerchief. It's a little bit like that. I equate almost everything on this hero's journey process to The Hobbit, because everybody knows the story. So, So then, we go off on this hero's journey, right? And the writing happens, and all of our authors are paired one-on-one with a highly experienced editor. So they're submitting chapters as they're completed. They're getting real-time feedback. It's very important because it keeps the books from going off the rails. It prevents writer's block. It keeps people, moving through and having someone to continuously ideate with is really important. And so having a team as you kind of get to the finish line is really, it's a cool thing. And it really does keep things moving along. In general, for us, it's generally about 6 to 8 months of writing time. And, that's very different than some other programs, but we really believe that, making the book its best self deserves that level of time and attention and ideation. So yeah, but so that's kind of almost akin to the external process, right? The internal process happens when, Bilbo has, defeated the dragon and gotten the treasure and gone back to the Shire. And now he's different, but everybody else is the same. And that kind of is the stage that happens after the author is done with their drafts and we've gone into production and we're looking at launch. And what ends up happening is this beautiful process. Almost everyone goes through, really facing their fears about visibility, about stepping out as this new and improved version of them with this amazing, very compact, mission that they can then hand over to someone literally. And there's an up level that happens in that process, getting ready for that level of visibility, being seen in that way, really leaning into what is possible now that I have this foundation of this quality product that then I can leverage, right? What does it mean to be preparing for, some of our clients do very large scale launches, going for Wall Street Journal, USA Today, et cetera. What does it mean to be seen at that level? And then how do I leverage this in order to take my next steps into thought leadership? And the journey is different for everyone, but there's almost always this moment of like, I don't know if I can do this. And, and that's something that we're really committed to being there for people around, because it's actually the stage where most people fall off the wagon with transformation. So you see it with, with events and retreats. People go to the event and retreat. They have this beautiful journey of expansion and like everything clicks. And then they go home and they're different, but everybody else is the same. And the transformation withers because they don't have the support to sustain it, right? And so really it's important at that stage of the game to have support to sustain the transformation, get the book out in the world, really step into this new level of visibility and expertise, and then, continue to receive support along the rest of that journey. So, it really is, again, akin to the hero's journey, right? So we have this whole external part, which is really about the writing and, the getting the feedback and doing it. And then you go underground. And you really have to pull out the gold within yourself to be able to get that, take that next step up, stand on that stage, be seen in that way. And it's a beautiful thing to witness. It really is incredible. But, and I think that many of those kind of key moments are universal across all author journeys. Some of what I've described, may happen uniquely in our process, but I think for the most part, the feelings that people will encounter, it's like the fear of leaving the nest, and then like, oh God, I'm battling all the things, and then coming back and be like, okay, I'm scared to come out of the cave, right? I think that's universal to anyone writing a book or honestly launching anything.
Absolutely.
Any creative process.
Even launching a business, I remember going through the same process when I started. I had everything sorted out. I had a coach who showed me, and come to the day of launch, and I'm thinking, I was sweating, and I'm glad I did it, because it is that experience, and now I can help others and say it's okay, this is normal. So I'm glad you're touching on that indeed.
Yeah, the power of showing up authentically and feeling confidence that the world is going to accept that.
Yeah.
And not feeling like there's part of us that we have to hold back, which is so common.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
that's
it's
a
more
beautiful place to
than,
be.
we want the world to accept it, but in the
Mhm.
end, it doesn't matter as long as we accept it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's this piece of us that always wants the public approval.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are aligned with us will always offer that level of support. And that too is just a absolutely gorgeous thing to witness, the way that people rally around each other when something on this scale is being born, and the aligned communities that emerge from that. But in the end, it's really about us owning who we are and what we do, and owning it regardless of how other people understand or misunderstand it.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to say that, like, oh, don't care what other people think. And then it's like, well, yeah, of course we care what other people think. We exist in a world with other people.
Right.
And the way that we feel about it, the clarity that we have around it, always needs to supersede, because then the littlest thing can pull the rug out from under us. The strong foundation of our thought leadership is built on our conviction and our understanding of how it all works together inside of us.
Yeah.
You raised, sorry.
Sorry, I wanted to highlight something there, Bryna, that you said, which was an eye-opener in my journey in what I'm doing. Is, when I started, I wasn't so sure how people were going to accept what I was doing, especially in the world of business. But, the amount of people that have come around me to support me, even opening opportunities, even the speaking opportunities that I ended up having, it's like, and all these people absolutely believes in me. It truly is amazing. So if you are there, Bill, and you're thinking, okay, will there be people rallying behind you? Absolutely, you can bank on it. There will be some cynical, some people who don't like you, whatever you do, but there will always be a group of people who are pulling for you, rooting for you, left, right, and center. And those are the people to focus on and just go live your dreams. Thomas, back to you.
Yeah, no, what I really appreciated you making the distinction of, Bryna, was the separating, because we're hardwired as humans for safety, belonging, and dignity. And so there's that natural external validation. It's like, do I belong here? Is my contribution recognized? And what I hear in your response is the implicit question of how can we cultivate that for ourselves within ourselves?
Absolutely. Well, I think the first lesson from that is that if anyone listening does not have at least 3 or 4 people in their world who can offer that level of, like, being a cheerleader, really supporting, believing in you, it is not only your job, but it is necessary. It is imperative that you go out and find people who do and who can, because the people around you, we're all kind of interwoven in this web, and we either hold each other up or we let each other fall. And not everyone in our world is going to be capable of holding us at this new level of our expression. And so if you're listening and you're like, I just don't have people in my life who can support me like that, then it's not a question of making yourself wrong for that. It's not a question of making the situation wrong. It's a question of, am I willing to go out and find the people who will, because they are out there.
Oh, yes, absolutely. There is a saying, in fact, I used to have a placard in my office that say, willpower can take you so far, but the environment will take you all the way. So, having the right people around you, or your virtual team, so now in the world we live, that are always rooting for you, is paramount. Absolutely love that. And we live by it here as well on the business show. We're coming toward the end of our time. I just noticed here, what time it is. We could continue because this conversation is packed with a great information. But before we wrap up here, Bryna, we would love for you once again to share a place where people can connect with you.
Absolutely. So you can find me and my amazing team at worldchangers.media. And we're located in the States, but we do work with clients worldwide. So We love this virtual world. So yes, please do connect. And I don't do, free downloads or giveaways. What I have is an invitation to connect. So if anyone is curious about learning more about what we do, I just invite you to book a call with me and we'll have a chat.
Absolutely. And I was looking at your website earlier on. You have an incredible team of array of expertise. I was looking at Monica Harold, one of your content editor, and the thing that she's done, Maggie Mills, outstanding Dustin Lawman. In fact, I can just continue on, people with decades of expertise. And if you are listening and you want assistance with any of the two things that we talked about, thought leadership, or just, getting your book out there, your thoughts out there in a book format, where to go. Bryna Haynes has done it, and certainly I'll be able to show you how to do that. So once again, you can go to worldchanges.media. Is that the right one, or worldchanges.com?
No, it's worldchangers.media.
Incredible. Worldchanges.media. Again, it will be located at the bottom of this recording if you want to find out more. I highly recommend you do that. Remember, what we always say on the show is never leave a place of discovering something new without documenting it or scheduling what you're going to do next. And I hope you have put down what to do next to reach out to Bryna. Let us know how you've enjoyed our conversation here today. Bryna, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here with both of you. Thank you.
You certainly have been wonderful and generous with your knowledge. We truly appreciate it. Incredible. And Thomas, thanks again for being here with us. And for you, if you've got any question around what we've talked about, reach out to any of us and we'll be delighted to help you. And if you want to know how to start, scale, and monetize your podcast or learn how to do that, you can reach out to our team. We are so looking forward to helping you publish your voice or helping you do what you want to do best. Until next time, remember to live well, live with passion, know that the best is truly yet to come. And goodbye for now.
Thank you for listening to UK Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.ukbusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.